there I am. I'm up here. Oh, crap! I forgot to share it on social media again. Well, darn it. Well, some VTuber I am. I forgot to promote myself again. Oh well. Let me pause this music for a second. It sounds like I'm about to have like a sweeping love confession made to me. I forgot to promote myself again. That's cool. That's fun. Alright, so I'm appearing on my Chanel. That's a good sign. Okay, let me. Yeah. This is what the behind the scenes stuff looks like, everyone. This is what it's like to be your own manager, your own artist, your own self promotion person. Hello, cat. You don't do any self promotion. You're a cat. Alrighty, there we go. That's like a basic message. Click post. Clickety clackety, okay. Now onto the tumblers. No wait, onto the blue skies first, okay. And the radiator's coming up because the radiator just has perfect timing. So that's cool. I can't believe it. I was like, okay, I have everything ready. I have the thumbnail. I have this. I have that. I have the screen where I'm showing off one of the two photos that I can confidently show off. Because the rest of the photos I have will require face blurring, and short of the orchestra being there, I don't want to face blur anything. I don't want to do that much work on my photographies. Yeah. So there's that. Alright, so yeah, I was like, I had everything ready. I had CAW running, I had this, I have that. And lo and behold, I forgot to promote myself. Because that's just who I am this week. Hello, cat. Hi. Hello, cat, how are you? Oh, I'm actually the good one saying hello. Hi! How's your arm? A lot better, actually. So what I ended up doing was I basically just spent the whole day with an ice pack on it. It is significantly better than before. Unfortunately, now the radiator's getting super duper loud. Because the radiator just has perfect timing. It's a little distracting. But yeah, my arm's doing a lot better. I'm actually keeping it off of the ice right now just to take a break. Because what I did was I basically just tied the ice pack in place with a ribbon. And, yeah. So I kind of wanted to give my arm a break. But thankfully, my arm is a lot better. Yeah. Like, what I thought to myself was, okay, if I still have pain, I do want to stream, but, like, what's a game that I could play with one arm, essentially? Like, what can I play with either my left hand, which is not my dominant hand, or what can I play with my dominant hand with just in, like, a comfy single position? Yeah, so there's that. But thankfully it's doing a lot better. Like, theoretically, I could play something a little bit more, hands-on, for lack of better words. But, yeah, it's just a CAW and chill kind of day, because it's a very sleepy Sunday. My sleep is up the wazoo for a good reason, because I had a lot of fun yesterday. And also because tendinitis is horrible, and will wake you from a sound sleep with pain. So yeah, I thought I would do something a little bit more relaxing and low-key. But also, considering that, one, I saw the Sonic Symphony yesterday, and two, I've talked about the idea of doing, like, Sonic-based, Sims 3 Creator World stuff, and I've done Sonic-based, Sims-related things in the past. I thought it would also be kind of fun to just, like, look at some maps of Sonic stuff and discuss the plausibility of them in Creator World. So that could be pretty cool. But yeah, let me actually kick the music back on because the radiator is driving me nuts. So I kicked on Elisa's theme. I don't know if it's the best music for stream. I have a backup track in another tab. But yeah. I'm going to be very busy next week. Lots of plans. Yeah, it's also holiday season, so that was another reason I'm like, you know what? Something relaxing. Something very low-key and low energy. So that's why I thought of just doing Sims 3 stuff. Or Sims 3 Create a World stuff, to be more specific. Not gonna lie, My Destiny is one of my favorite Sonic songs. It's very nice. It's very chill and beautiful. And it's a shame they only did a little bit of it in the original Sonic Symphony that they premiered on YouTube. And I don't think I heard it in any of the live shows that I've been to, unfortunately. So that sucks. It's really a shame, just because it is a very pretty song. What was funny is that, like, I was playing it before I started stream, just kind of getting myself hyped up for stream. It's like, okay, you know, I've never used My Destiny in stream before. You know, I'm gonna roll with this. I'm trying to relax. I'm in a relaxed mood. You know, it could be cool music to have in the background while I play The Sims or do anything in Creative World. And then after a while I turned it off, it's like, no, okay, this is distracting me. This sounds like a love confession's about to happen. But it's a very beautiful song. But yeah, I forgot to promote myself too, so I also turned it off. It's like, well, crap, I gotta go on the social medias to signal people that I'm streaming. Alright, there goes the blue skies. Wait, did I put? I did, okay. I'm going crazy. Yeah, my brain's a little bit scattered, more than usual today, because I woke up very stupidly early to do Sonic Symphony related things yesterday, and then I woke up, like, at very weird times when I slept at night, so that was also cool. That was fun. My sleep is a joke. Alright, so on to the tumblers. I know the tendonitis pain is actually getting better when I can do, like, a full stretch. That's nice. Oh, crap. Oh, shite. I posted in the wrong trousers on Tumblr. I don't know if anyone knows this or uses this feature, but Tumblr has this feature called communities, where basically they're like little groups. They're essentially like little social groups on Tumblr. So, yeah, I joined a Tumblr community called Sims 3. Let me double check the name. Yeah, it's called Sims 3CC. I think their full name is called like Sims 3CC Shopping. And basically what it is, it's just a bunch of people posting like all of their custom content creations and other custom content for The Sims 3. What I didn't know was that the create button that happens on Tumblr when you want to make a post, yeah, it accidentally made a community post in the Sims 3CC community on the Tumblrs. And it's not CC related, it's just me trying to advertise the fact that I'm streaming. I thought the create button was not gonna do that, but no, it did, and I quickly deleted it, and now I'm here trying to just post it on the normal Tumblrs. So yeah, that's where my brain is at. That's why I gotta get doing this stuff better, like, gotta get better at doing this stuff ahead of time, because I am a dummy. I'm a baka. Okay, let me look at. Okay, it's decent now, and I'm posting it on my own freaking Tumblr page and not the community. Yeah, that was an oopsie. Hopefully the admins on that page didn't notice that. Also, hello, Mr. Blue. You can tell it's Mr. Blue because he's like the reason I'm in here. So yeah, that's where his head is at. Alrighty. I really hate the self-promotion bit. It gets very annoying because there's just so much social media stuff. So much. I can't believe I forgot to promote myself again. I think this is the second time in a row. Again, I forgot to do that. Alrighty, there we go. I'm sick of self-promotion, but here I am. Alrighty then. Okay, I think I did all the self-promotion that I can muster. Let me lower the music a little bit because it's a little bit loud in my ears. Alrighty. But yeah. So, Sonic Symphony. I went to Sonic Symphony twice, and it was freaking awesome. But yeah, so the first show that I went to was in New York, and I went with Mr. Blue, and it was a very wonderful show. It was also around my birthday, so I guess it technically counted as a birthday gift, and it's possibly one of the greatest gifts I've ever received around my birthday. And it was freaking awesome. And then, same Mr. Blue. Same guy. One day, he just so happened to be in town, so he's like, hey, can I come visit you real quick? And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, what's the occasion? He's like, oh, I just need to drop something off. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, he just pops by for like literally like 2 seconds, and he's like, "Hey, you got any plans for next Saturday?" And I'm like, well, I got one thing that I could try to reschedule. Why do you ask? We're going to Sonic Symphony. To which I immediately began to scream in absolute delight, and I asked him if he was kidding or not, and then he was like, "I'm not kidding. We're going to Sonic Symphony again." So yeah, cause he's a mad lad, and I'm like, How long did you know we were going to Sonic Symphony again? And he's like, after the first one, basically, yeah, I could kind of tell you wanted to go again, so, yeah, I got tickets for the New Jersey show, and I'm like, I didn't think you were serious about that! Because my whole mentality was like, oh, it would be nice to go to the New Jersey show, if they did a New Jersey show, and, yeah, it would be nice. But, we saw the New York show, so it's like, I'm content with the New York show if I never get to see Sonic Symphony again. And then, he basically had a hold my beer moment, and hid this from me for 6 months. Cat, what are you doing on the headboard? Thank you. But yeah, so he hid this from me for 6 months, and only revealed it last week, and then I was scrambling, it's like, okay, well, I need an outfit, I want to look pretty, I'm gonna see Sonic again, I gotta scramble some monies so I can, like, look at merchandise if I'm lucky this time, etc, etc. But yeah, we went, and it was freaking awesome, and yeah! Alright, we pause the music a hot second, because I'm losing train of my thoughts. But yeah. It was such an awesome show, and the month of November was pretty darn stressful for me, because I had a personal crisis that I can't really get into. I have to be very vague about it. But yeah, because of all the stress that I had to endure during that personal crisis, I was just like, you know what, universe, thank you for giving me the opportunity to see Sonic Symphony again. Thank you, Mr. Blue, for being such a good friend. And yeah. So yeah, I was like, oh my god, I get to see Sonic Symphony again, I can't freaking believe it. But yeah, we made a day of it, because we were going to be in New Jersey, and it's like, you know what, we don't really see much of New Jersey, we don't really go to New Jersey very often, let's just do fun touristy stuff, and just go explore New Jersey a bit. So most of the day was spent going to various malls and other like retail locations because fun fact about Mr. Blue, he loves retail history. He goes absolutely nuts with like retail history and architecture and you know all that stuff. So it's like cool. We're both having fun, but also just he really likes that kind of thing a lot more than I do sometimes. So it's like yeah, there are sometimes where it's like, Mr. Blue, I'm tired of walking through malls. Can I just like sit in a corner somewhere? And he's like, okay, I'm just gonna walk the mall, and then he proceeds to walk the mall. And yeah, so retail stuff was it's kind of a mixed bag. I think really depends on where you go because there were some locations where we wanted to go there, or he wanted to go there and he wanted to show me, but either they were under construction, they were under renovation, or they were just like shut down entirely. So there was that. Also, we had just a heck of a time dealing with this GPS driving us through the weirdest locations. Yeah, so that was also fun. And yeah, it was definitely a time. But all that was basically just to kill time before the actual symphony. So the show started at 8, but we were basically just on the road doing like travel and touristy stuff all day to kill time. And you're probably wondering like, well, why would you leave so early? Why would you leave so early in the morning if the symphony is like at 8 o'clock at night? It's like, well, not only to do touristy stuff, but also to beat the traffic. Because if we had left sometime in the afternoon, we would have hit traffic. And we could have gotten stuck on the road for hours at a time and risked being late to the show. So there's that. And yeah, I would say it was worth it though. My internal sleep clock, not so much. Goodness, cat, what are you doing? Yeah, my internal sleep clock does not really appreciate it. But I had a lot of fun. And yeah. So I don't really have that many photos of the Sonic Symphony to show off this time. There was no, like, okay, so the New York venue where the show was held, it was a very beautiful venue, and there were places outside of the venue to hang out and kind of loiter after the show. So we didn't really get the opportunity to do that this time because the venue in New Jersey didn't really have any areas outside of the venue to just kind of loiter and hang out with all the nerds. So yeah, nothing exciting there. So if any Sonic famous people did show up, if any voice actors or movie related people showed up, we didn't get to meet anybody this time. We just went home afterward. Because 1, it was late. 2, we needed sleep because we were awake like all day and had horrible sleep the night before. So we're basically running up. He was like, we should just go home. Let's go back to our respective homes. So yeah, that was... Yeah, so I don't have any stories, like, after the show. Like, all my stories were, like, during the show and before the show. And I only have 2 photos that I can really show off as a result, because, again, there was nowhere to, like, loiter outside of the venue. So there are no stories, like, post-show. Yeah. So there's that. So, I have this little guy posing in front of the stage where you see the orchestra, you see the screen with a countdown on it. And yeah. And then I also have this other photo because the venue, or at least the showroom that we were in, I'm not sure how many stages this venue had. I'm assuming this is either the only one or maybe there's a couple of other ones. I have no idea. I didn't really do my research into the venue. But they did have this giant ball on the ceiling that got, like, lifted up right up in here before the show started. So why it was down here before the show started, I don't really know. And there were no, like, laser effects or anything done with the ball during the show. So it just kind of sat up here the whole show turned off. But while everyone was waiting, it was glowing blue. And then I took a photo of this guy in front of it. Hello, cat. What are you doing? Yeah. So those are the only 2 pictures I can really show off. Because, yeah, I didn't really do a lot of pictures, and the pictures that I did take are all in the venue, and there are a whole bunch of people and cosplayers, and I don't want to accidentally dox anybody, and I don't want to have to go through the struggle of blurring faces, because 1, it's annoying, and 2, then the image is just going to be a gigantic blur, because there were just so many people there. And, like, even in cosplay or when people wear masks, it's like, I still don't want to dox anybody. Uh, yeah, I don't want to have to go through that. Regular real guy asking, why kill time? What did it do to you? It ruined my sleep schedule. Yeah. Alright, so I'm gonna be struggling with the music because My Destiny is a very good song, but it's also just a little bit distracting because in the process of talking about music, it's like, okay, but let me try to remember the music that was played at the show, and then My Destiny's on in the background. It's like, okay, it's very nice, but also it's gaslighting me to just want to listen to My Destiny the entire time. Oh my god. The radiator. It's quieting down. It's quieting down. Oh my god, thank you. Thank you, radiator. Alright, now I can focus a little bit better. Yeah. Thank you, radiator. I really appreciate that. What is this sleep schedule you speak of? I know, right? Yeah, my sleep schedule's a joke. Oh my god. It's like, especially for the past couple weeks, my sleep schedule's been a joke. But this time it's a joke for good reason. So this time it's a good joke. Because I had way too much fun and then I kept going in and out of sleep. Oh my god. When I got home, the first thing I did was I just immediately collapsed in my bed, fell asleep for a half an hour. And then I woke up, realized, oh crap, I should call my mom just to let her know that I'm home. Proceeded to call my mom. We talked for 10 minutes, hung up, and then I fell asleep again. And then I woke up. And I'm like, I'm kind of hungry. And so I heated myself up some food that I had made the night before. I ate that, and then I fell asleep again. Woke up to the cat eating a little bit of the food that I had left behind on my plate. And then I just argued with her for a while. I was like, hey, don't do that. Proceeded to fall asleep again. Woke up to tendinitis pain around 5 in the morning. I'm like, well, crap, I have tendinitis again. So I go to the refrigerator. I check for an ice pack, realize that it's in the refrigerator, not the freezer, and I'm like, well, fuck, this is gonna hurt. Yeah. But, like, if an ice pack that's been sitting in the regular fridge is better than one that's, room temperature, so I dealt with that for a while the other one chilled in the freezer. And I've basically just been switching between the two ice packs all day, and thankfully my arm's a lot better as a result. Because how you're supposed to treat tendinitis pain is just to, rest the affected joint as much as possible, put it on ice. Do not put it on heat because that'll make it hurt 10 times more. I learned that the hard way. And then I wanted to saw my own arm off as a result. And yeah. So I've dealt with it before, but it still hurts and you just want to saw your own arm off whenever it happens. And it's always the same arm too. That's what sucks about it. But yeah, the reason I have tendinitis is because one exciting thing that happened during the show was that Mr. Blue ran off to the merch table during intermission. And he got the light sticks. He got the frickin' light sticks. Yeah, so at the New York show for the Sonic Symphony, their logistics were terrible. And I mean, their logistics were awful. Because, let me see if I can get the photo again. If not, I'm going to have to dig through Discord DMs to get Mr. Blue's photography. I don't want to have to dig. I don't want to have to dig through Discord DMs. That was so long ago. That was 6 months ago. But yeah, the logistics at the New York show were definitely lacking. So I'm gonna draw what I remember because I don't want to dig through Discord DMs. It's a very nice photo, I will say, but I don't want to dig through photos because that's gonna be a lot of freaking photos to go through. All right, so the New York venue, from a top-down perspective, kind of looked like this. So you had the staircase. You had room on either side. Some art displayed here. What is it? Yeah, I know you're a cat. You go meow. There was concessions over here. There was some mystery stuff in an opening over here. I never went through there, so I don't know what was going on there. And then you have this hallway. I'm gonna scribble up a floor over here. Just pretend these are floorboards or something. And then you have these rooms on either side. And then you have like the, you know, the entrance and exit right over here. So you had these two platforms. The bathroom was over here. I think this area would have been probably the balcony. And this unknown, I don't know what it is. The merch table was over here. Let me get a different color for lines. The line for merch, you know, you're supposed to go over here. The line for the bathroom was also over here. The line for merch, however, was so long that it, like, was parallel to the bathroom line, was going up and down the stairs into this other room. So it was a very long line, and because it was right next to, you know, the line for the bathroom, which, because there are so many people in this small venue, is also forming like a secondary line to get into the bathroom that's kind of stretching out over here. There was a lot of collusion and no one really knowing where to go, so this part was just chaos. And it was basically impossible to get merch. On top of that, the New York show was in summer. It was in June. So it's very hot in this venue, not just because it's hot outside, and because I don't remember if this venue had air conditioning, and if they did, it wasn't very good. But it's also just very hot because there are so many people around. And so, with so many people around, you know, there's just the heat coming off of so many bodies, and people talking, and just people being there. Yeah, it's amazing that no one got heat stroke that day. It's literally amazing how no one got heat stroke that day. So, yeah, that was fun to think about. Yeah, the New Jersey show, however, had, like, the venue, I think, was much bigger. It had multiple floors. And on top of that, I think the logistics were much better organized. Because the Jersey venue, it was... You see, I don't really remember it, because it wasn't nearly as awe-inspiring as the New York venue. But it was still it was a very modern theater. And it was still very nice. And, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, we didn't really get to explore much of the venue before the show started, because we were just focusing on, like, oh, well, you know, the show's supposed to be starting. We should probably get seated. But we just want to look for merch. We want to do this. We want to do that. But from what I remember, entrance was around here. You had to go through a metal detector. But this time there were no bag searches. Security was also very nice and very accommodating. Because there was someone at security who saw me with my cane, and I guess they didn't expect anyone to just go to the show with a cane. So they kind of stopped me after I went through the metal detector. It's like, oh, I see you're walking with a mobility device. And I'm like, yeah, like, there's not going to be a possibility that anyone's going to take this away from me, right? It's a mobility device. And they're like, oh, no, you can keep it. You're going to be fine. Because I guess they were concerned, like, oh, like, is she going to be able to access the seat that's on the ticket? And you know, they looked at our seats, and the security was like, oh, no, you're gonna be fine. Just, like, try to, like, tuck the cane under your seat if you can. And it's like, oh my god, thank you so much. Thank you for being so nice. Which is a huge improvement from the security at the New York show. Because I guess everyone was just very cranky that night. But yeah, so entrance and exit were here. And that's around the room where, like, the show's actually supposed to happen. But then, the best thing is that, like, merch was pretty close to the door. Pretty close to, like, where the exits and entrances are. And then the lines. The lines were also formed on the stairs. But the stairs were also much bigger. So there were these stairs just kind of, like, spiraling, like, onto each other. but everyone who was online for merch was just on one side of the wall, and they were able to get merch. So just this side of the wall. So it was a lot easier for anyone who just needed to go up the stairs for any reason to just go up and down as they pleased. So yeah, it was a lot more well organized. It was like, oh my god, logistics has improved so much. And it was just such a relief, where it's like, oh my god, we're not going to die of heat stroke. We're not going to suffocate. We're not going to get trampled over by other nerds. Just trying to listen to Sonic music and trying to get merch. But yeah. It's because of the logistics for the last time where it's like, okay, well, it's impossible to get merch because it's crowded. The lines are all intersecting. There's too many people, and also it's hot. This time, because it was so much better organized, we actually got light sticks during intermission, and it's wonderful. And I will say, it was my first time having light sticks at any sort of concert or event, and oh my, it improves the experience so much. It just has such an impact on the experience. It's crazy. Yeah. Alrighty, let me kick the music back on. Now that my head's a little bit clearer. I'll just stick with my Destiny for now, and then if it gets too much for my brain, I'll switch out for my other track that I had in mind. But yeah, it was a stark improvement from before. But yeah, so oh yeah, I'm kind of unprepared. I'm kind of all over the place. One, because I think after a concert you still kind of have that post-concert high. So like your brain is just constantly like, I want to go back, I want to experience it all over again. But then it's also just like, I have to return to my regular life. I can't be at the concert forever. There's my pen. Okay. So much like the last time I talked about the Sonic Symphony, let's just... Oh, wrong layer. Let's discuss what music was played. So yeah. Each show is slightly different from the other, so to those who have gone to many more shows, I can only imagine how many talking points you could possibly have. I've only been to 2. So at the New York show, they did Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. They did Sonic Mania. They did the CAW. They did the CAW medley. They also did Believe in Myself. Oh my god, this doodle's terrible. You know, little tails, little fox guy. And they also did, It Doesn't Matter in the classical music portion. And then after that, they did the modern stuff. And for modern, they did... I'm having trouble remembering, it has just been that long. But yeah, for modern they did SA2. They did 06. They did Unleashed. They did Colors. And then they also did Frontiers. Oh yeah, they also did Forces. I should... meant to put that here. They did Forces. I hope my crude doodles can get the point across. So they did that. The modern stuff and the classic stuff was pretty much in some kind of canonical order in terms of when the games actually came out. That was not the case with the NJ show. That was not the case in the New Jersey show. So the New Jersey show did... Oh yeah, I forgot. The New York show also did... They did a lot of shadow music. They did a lot of shadow music. The NJ show did Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Sonic Mania. They did the Chow medley. They did Believe in Myself. And also, It Doesn't Matter. But then that's basically where the classical music portion ended. At least for the classic games. What they did end up doing was they had a little intermission, and then they did new content. Which is part of why I had 06 music playing in the background. So, yeah. They had a little bit of new content, and that was very exciting. So what they ended up doing, they did Dreams of an Absolution. And then Dreams of an Absolution just, it was so nice, because one, it's new content, because I don't think that song has appeared anywhere else in any of the other shows so far. But also, if you're like me, and you're a massive Elise simp, and you just think Silver's the most precious little dude in the world, you'll be happy to know a lot of the footage that they used for the Dreams of an Absolution segment had a lot of the cutscenes of Silver and Elise from 06, and it was just like, oh my god, my babies, my princess, my hedgehog, oh my god. So yeah, if you like Silver, if you like Elise, if you shipped them and you like Silver Elise, oh my god, you would have just squeed as hard as I did during that segment, because it was just... I think that was the biggest highlight of the New Jersey show, to be honest, because it was just so new and wonderful, and it's just like, oh my god, yay, more content, more 06 representation. They're wrapping up a year of Shadow, probably. Yeah, they also did a lot of Shadow music at the New Jersey show as well. They also had Casey Williams at the New York show. They didn't, at the New Jersey show. They didn't have her in New York. Yeah, that's what she was in the New Jersey show. But because, you know, Sonic Shadow Generations came out, and because she did a song for, you know, the cinematic that came out before Shadow Generations was released, yeah, she also performed that song. It was wonderful. Not into the ship, but I love the idea of exploring a Silver and Elise's friendship. Yeah, I know, right? They would be such wonderful friends because they are basically the protagonists of 06. I will defend that position till my dying day. They are basically the protagonists of 06. They should have interacted a lot more. And I feel like if you were going to ship Elise with one of the hedgehogs, you should have just done it with Silver, because again, he's kind of crucial to her story, even if she doesn't realize it. But no, they shipped her with Sonic, and that's how we got, you know, the horrible scene that is horrible. And that's also how we got a really undercooked romance, or an attempted romance, but yeah. 06's story is definitely a story. But yeah, that was the biggest one for, you know, the new content that they did. So that was the biggest highlight. I was literally just squeeing in my seat. I'm just like, oh my god, Elise! I was going absolutely bonkers. It was wonderful. It was the best kind of bonkers. Yeah, they did Dreams of an Absolution. They did 2 other songs, but I don't really remember what they are, for better or worse, unfortunately. I think they were... Goodness, I don't know. I'm gonna... This is my call a friend moment. Alright, let's see if my... let's see if Mr. Blue will answer. But yeah, so that was the biggest highlight. And now the text will be getting a little bit smaller because I have more to write. But yes, then they did 2 other songs. And then that portion ended. And then they did the rock portion of the show, which was amazing as always, and they had Casey Williams, so they did Shadow content, of course. Then they did Frontiers. Oh yeah, they also did goodness, I'm blanking out. They did Shadow, they did Frontiers. They also did Sonic R, actually. So that was new. I'm not sure if that's been in any of the other shows thus far. They did Sonic R music, and that was awesome. And then they did... And then at the end of the show, Casey Williams did that song that she did for the Shadow Generation cinematic. And that was a beautiful song to hear live. I'm sure you've seen the Sonic Channel live for them ice skating. Oh yeah, I love that art of them ice skating. It's beautiful. And on top of that, like, I am very much the kind of person who's like, I feel like humans can work in Sonic's world. It's just a matter of, like, proportion. Like, the way they drew and rendered Maria in Shadow Generations, the cinematic and the actual game, that's a good balance of both stylized art, but also regular human proportions. So I feel like if they go with that style going forward, it's going to make humans less jarring to have in Sonic's world. And all that. Whereas 06, they tried to go too hard with the realism, and having the realistic humans with very toony furries does not really look good, or it takes a lot more effort to make look good. And then you also have the Unleashed style, where it's highly cartoony and highly stylized, and they look fine alongside the toony furries. And then the art of Silver and Elise ice skating, they did her in the Puyo Puyo art style, where it's very stylized, but she's also very short. But also I'm kind of biased because I like height differences, and I like the idea of her being taller compared to the Sonic cast, so it's like I do miss her being tall. So I do enjoy fan art where it's them ice skating, but she's, you know, a regular human proportion and not the Puyo Puyo art style. It's still very nice art. It's still very nice art regardless, and I appreciate the fact that it exists. But yeah, the show is overall wonderful. I guess I still have that post-concert high. And yeah, it's really great. So I think the tour is unfortunately ending either this year or early next year, so if anyone else has the opportunity to see it, like those last 2 times, I think the last 2 shows are in California and in Washington, I highly recommend seeing it before the show ends. Get yourself some merch, get a light stick, get a shirt, get a purse, get a fridge magnet. Oh yeah, I got a fridge magnet. I got a fridge magnet and a light stick. So yeah, it's wonderful. It was such a great show. They're all slightly different. Highly recommend it. And it's one of the best Christmas surprises I've ever gotten, so, you know, thank you, Mr. Bloom. Thank you for dealing with me and transporting me around everywhere. It was a wonderful show and a wonderful experience. But yeah, that's basically about it for the Symphony stuff. It was a wonderful show, but yeah. Honestly, for better or worse, it's kind of like, okay, it was a wonderful show. What else is there to say? It was a wonderful show. It's one of those instances where it's like, okay, well, it was a really good show, but I have really nothing to go on about it except, like, the set list, my experience there, staff was nice, venue was cool, even though there was, like, nowhere to loiter outside of it immediately. But yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, I had such a good time, I almost have nothing really to say about it. I feel like this is kind of the lame portion of the stream, where it's like, okay, I should just kind of wrap things up and just go straight into Sim stuff. But yeah, it was a great show. And then the only other thing I could really talk about in terms of the Sonic Symphony is the fact that I got the light stick. So I'll tell you about the light stick. So it's extremely light, it's light to the point where I didn't think batteries were included. But batteries are actually included. You just have to hold buttons to turn it on. And it cycles through a bunch of colors. It cycles through... Let me do a little tally of the colors it has, because I actually haven't done a tally of the colors it includes. So, by default, as soon as you turn it on, it has red, then green, blue, a kind of orchidy shade of pink. It has a nice, like, silvery color. It's a little bit like a silvery lavender color, but for the most part just counts as silver. Or white. It has yellow. It has blue again, but it's a slightly different shade of blue. It has teal, where it has... It's the kind of teal where it has slightly more green than teal. It's almost like a seafoam green. Slightly more green than blue, yeah. That's what I meant to say. It has purple. It has gold. It has another kind of shade of orchid that's a little deeper than the first one. It has another shade of blue that's darker than both the previous shades of blue. It has a greenish yellow. It has another shade of teal that kind of reminds me of Hatsune Miku, so if you ever go to a Miku concert and this is the only light stick you have, I guess you could use it for Miku too. And then it goes back to red. So it has around 14 colors. Some of them are just a little bit too close to each other, where I kind of think maybe it's a little too similar to justify putting on the light stick, but I guess it just depends on the venue you're on. I think it's probably easier to differentiate the colors in the dark. Oh, and Mr. Blue got back to me. So, the other surprise content they did was... They did at the New Jersey show. I keep wanting to say New York, but it was New Jersey. Goodness. He only remembers one of them, though, so it was Dreams of an Absolution, and then they did more Heroes content. They did way more Heroes content than they did at the New York show. Because at the New York show, they just did, you know, the Show Me What I'm Made Of. Wait, the song is just called What I'm Made Of. And they only did that. That was the only Heroes representation at the New York show. They did a much bigger Heroes segment in New Jersey, and it was awesome. But then neither of us can remember the last portion that they did that was new content, unfortunately. But yeah, it was still awesome though. I had me turn off my light stick. But yeah, it's also my first time with a light stick. The reason why Mr. Blue and I wanted to get light sticks... Well, he wanted to get light sticks, and he was so upset that he couldn't get light sticks at the New York show. He wanted to get them just because it enhances the experience, but also everyone else had light sticks. And it's also, he wanted to do like those idol dances that, you know, people at like idol shows do with the light sticks. And it's also just so much fun seeing people like change the light stick colors, because at idol shows, what you're supposed to do is change your light stick to the color of the idol that you like the most. So say if you're at a Vocaloid concert, you're going to turn on your light stick and then switch to whatever Miku's color is. Usually it's either blue or teal, or sometimes green. In Project Diva, I think you're mostly going to see like green light sticks associated with Miku for any of the music videos that she's in, and she's like not wearing a particular costume that would warrant another color. So yeah, like if you're gonna see a Vocaloid concert, like green, blue, teal, that's Miku. If Luca's on, and you really like Luca, you would switch it to pink. If the Kagamine twins are on stage, you would switch it to yellow or orange, because I think Len is yellow and Rin is orange. So you would switch to either one of those colors to show your support for them. And it's meant to be a support thing, but also it's a very subtle marketing tactic, because marketing people see the amount of whatever color is in the crowd, and they use it to determine, like, okay, which idol is the most popular. So let's say Miku, Luca, and Rin and Len are all on stage at the same time. So they're looking for, okay, well, marketing people are looking for, okay, like, whose color is in the stage the most? So let's say majority of it is teal. There's a lot of pink also. It's maybe like 30% pink. And then you just have like a couple like yellow light sticks in the crowd, and then you have more orange than yellow. So that would mean like, okay, Miku's the most popular, Luca's the second most popular, Rin is more popular than Len. What do we do about Len? How do we make Len more marketable? Or there's also like, okay, well, Miku's our big money maker. Let's push the heck out of Miku, make sure that Miku's the most popular of all, keep marketing Miku. Rin is more popular than Len, so let's push Rin a little bit more. And Luca could get pushed more, and that kind of thing. So it's a very good marketing tactic, because not only is it extremely subtle, but also, you can use it to sell merchandise at the same time. So you're letting your fans do your marketing research for you. And yeah, so I had to explain that to my mom, and she found it pretty fascinating. But yeah, so at the Sonic Symphony, because each character, they're very colorful cast of furries the Sonic characters are. So you would see people like changing light stick colors to whoever was on the screen. So blue for Sonic, red for Shadow. I saw some purple for Mephiles when he was on screen. And that was friggin' awesome. What I did, because there are multiple shades of blue on the light stick, for the last song at the end, I changed my glow stick to like the lighter shade of blue on the light stick, just to be like that single light for Maria in the crowd. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So the light stick definitely does enhance the show, and that's why I have tendinitis, because I was just waving the light stick like crazy. Because at first I thought like, oh, having a light stick, maybe, I don't know, do I need one? They're kind of overrated. It's not like I go to concerts on the regular. And then lo and behold, that was just kind of a moment where it's like, oh, it's okay, I don't need it, I don't want it. And then lo and behold, I'm given the thing and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome! So yeah, I had too much fun with the light stick. Oh yeah, there were also times where I was just posing my Sonic plush that you see in the photo over here with the light stick, and that was fantastic. That was so much fun. And yeah. But yeah, that's about it for the Sonic Symphony stuff, because again, it was too good of a show to really talk about too much at length, and on top of that, we didn't linger outside of the venue to meet any Sonic famous people, and all that. The venue was in a very urban area, parking was right across the street from the venue, so people were basically just in and out. I will say, parking was a lot easier than expected, because it was a huge parking garage, but also the exit that you exited out of was right across the street from the venue, so it was just very easy to, park and go, and then come back from the venue and then just go home. So there's that. That was, so they had their crap figured out logistics-wise a lot better than the New York venue did. Which show do I like more? I think the New York show had just a little more content. The New Jersey show felt a little bit shorter than the New York show. I'm not sure if it's because maybe it was a genuinely shorter show and they just had less time approved by the venue, or if it was like, maybe it's just the set list that they had that felt shorter than the New York show. But each show is different, so they were both worth going to because they are both completely different experiences. Yeah, I would say I like the New York set list better, but also the staff at the New Jersey venue were just so much friendlier. And it even got to a point where Mr. Blue and I were driving around. It's like, okay, I don't want them to throw out my water like they did at the New York show, because I was just mad about that for days on end. So I'm just gonna leave all my water in the car. And then, we'll be off. They didn't do any bag checks this time, and they didn't really seem to enforce any policies on outside food or drinks at the New Jersey venue. So immediately I was like, fuck, I should have brought my water! But yeah. Also, the temperature of the venue was not as bad as the New York show, because the New York show, the stage that it was on, and the seating was just so cramped. The seating at the New York show was just so cramped that you could hardly get in and out of the seats. So it was just very uncomfortable after a time, and it was also just so hot after a while, like, in that room. The New Jersey one, it was... they had a lot of balconies, so that's one. They had a lot more balcony space, so a lot of people were just sitting in the balconies. There was a lower balcony, and then there was just, the pit, where a lot of the audience is sitting. So I think just the fact that it had more top-down space kind of aerated the room a little bit and made it not as hot. So I like the New Jersey venue's temperature control a lot better, and their staff was a lot friendlier, and their logistics were better by a mile. So I kind of wish you could combine both the set lists and then just have it at a venue like the New Jersey venue where, you know, they had their act together. But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I didn't really have any complaints. They were both different experiences, but I enjoyed them a lot despite some of the trials and tribulations that came with getting to each venue and then being at the venue themselves. And then the slog home. But yeah, they're still wonderful. I do not regret it for a second. It's a shame that the tour is ending because I think that the tour has just gone so well. But I think they've been at it for like they've been at it for like a year, maybe a year and a half now, I think they've been at it for at least a year. I'm not really sure when they started. But yeah, last two shows are in California and Washington, so it's like, oh boy, I hope whoever hasn't seen it gets to see it. And then what I also hope for is that because there has been exclusive like live show stuff, I hope some of that gets like an official recording and an official release at like a later date. Just for those who could not watch the show live, get a chance to enjoy some of the show without having to resort to bootlegs. Because, fun fact about live music and live performances is that bootlegs are the only way some of these shows end up surviving. Now, why is that? Well, one, because live shows are very expensive to produce and therefore tickets tend to be very expensive. Unless it's like community or like small scale theater where it'll be cheaper, but then it's just a matter of it's a live show. Like, there's probably not going to be a pro shot of the thing. Pro shots are also very expensive to produce. Like the YouTube version of the Sonic Symphony, that's basically designed to be a pro shot. It's just the orchestra and all the rock musicians by themselves. That's considerably less expensive than having live people applauding and cheering and doing all the fan-related stuff in the background. So yeah, like that was designed to just be pro-shotted and then posted up, and that was it. But then when it comes to like doing a pro shot with actual people around, that gets, you know, a little bit more complex due to logistics, because God forbid a cameraman's camera just falls onto an audience member. And you know, there's just a lot more to consider, really. Yeah. But then also, like, the other reason, like, we all have, like, small supercomputers in our pockets now, so, like, there are plenty of people that just record stuff with their phone and then just post it up for the sake of archiving. And there are so many shows that have only survived and gained popularity through bootlegs. Like, Ride the Cyclone is probably the biggest example that I know of, because I really love the musical Ride the Cyclone. But that musical is like 90% lost content. Waiting in the Wings recently did a Ride the Cyclone documentary, and that's the only other way that people have gained awareness of the show. Because the show got popularity through bootlegs. And that's how it got popular on TikTok, and it started making the rounds on the Tickety Talks and other social media sites. And started gaining traction that way. And now it's popular, but it was very obscure before. And earlier productions of Ride the Cyclone, because a lot of early Ride the Cyclone was improv, there are so many renditions of the show that are now lost. So the one bootleg that keeps coming around of Ride the Cyclone is like the closest thing we have to a pro shot, even though it is not a pro shot and it's not really too well filmed in terms of what's getting most focus, but it's still the best that we've got. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have more Sonic Symphony stuff be official, and to have some of the live show stuff, you know, be official, so that way it's not getting popularity through bootlegs, like so many other live shows and musicals and other performances that are otherwise completely lost to time. So yeah, it's great. Anyway, alright, now for, you know, the actual title of the stream, some CAW and Chill. Now that I've got all the Sonic out of my system. But wait, there's still more Sonic. So, I've discussed in the past, in terms of creating, like, Sonic-related content in Create a World, it's possible, but it's going to be extremely complicated. So, I was working on a CAW map before, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a new world just to kind of experiment a bit with trying to, you know, make some Sonic-related CAW content. Alright, so I saved my thing that I was working on previously. Let me make a new world. And for the sake of example, I'm going to work with a flat map for the first time. That's going to be completely jarring to me because I've never worked with a flat map before. Alrighty. Switching the screen to create a world. But yeah, so this is a completely flat map in Create a World. As you can see, there's only so much of the world you can see at a time before the software cuts you off. So it's a completely flat square. We zoom in just a little bit and open our terrain tools, and we try to make a valley. We're seeing just a little bit of a divot being created, and there's water underneath all this flat terrain. I don't know how to zoom in any faster than this, I apologize. So let's around with the water level a bit. Alright, so that's no water at all. And this is just a measly little puddle's worth of water. Yeah, so this is completely flat terrain. Now why am I showing off some flat terrain? Well, it's because the way you start off with, like, pre-made maps is there's a thing called height maps, and you're probably thinking, what's a height map? I don't know anything about the technical terms. I can only really describe them in terms of, you know, my tiny baby simmer brain that is now grown up and doesn't really know what things are, technically, but knows them from experience. So, if you import a height map, it'll basically... There we go. It'll give you some terrain to work with that's already pre-made. So I imported the height map for Twinbrook, which is the town included with the Sims 3 ambitions. So you can see all these mountains. And if we raise the water level, you can see where all the rivers are supposed to be in oh, I raised the water level too high. I got a little janky with the camera, I apologize. Well, I keep accidentally raising the water level too high, but it could also just be a matter of, okay, well, the Sims 3 devs had some more powerful water tools that were not available in the regular Sims 3 Create a World software. But yeah, the height map is basically just going to remember what your terrain looks like. So that way you can import them, export them, and basically just have a little bit of a base to work with. There are also the light versions of worlds, and those are basically just going to be the regular towns that are bundled in with the, the Sims 3, the Sims 3 expansion packs, and there are custom, like, light worlds out there. Light being spelled L-I-T-E. And they're, they're unpopulated. They might have the roads, they might have routing data, they might have the houses, they might have other community lots and other things, but they might not. It really just depends on, who exported the world. The light version of Sunset Valley does not come with any lots. It just has the roads and all the terrain paints. So, yeah, there's that. And the Sims 3 Create a World software only comes with a couple of different height maps. It comes with a large mountain river height map. It comes with one that's kind of like Sunset Valley, but it's called Large Mountain. It comes with an isle, so it's a little island map, and it comes with a flat map. And they come in different heights. There's height 100, height 200, and height 300. 300 is going to give you the most room to work with vertically, whereas the others will not. And the flat map is, you can see where it's just kind of segmented off, actually, with the water level so low and janky like that. But it also doesn't have any terrain, so I can't hoist it up any higher than what it currently is. So let's make it just a tiny little hill. So that way our water has something to work with. And see how it hides see how it just hides the rest of the terrain? Because it's all flat. So yeah, that's decent enough where I can see the flat terrain that I have to work with, but, you know, the water level isn't almost seizure-inducing. So there's that. So we try to zoom in and try getting kind of what a Sim's perspective looks like. Obviously, you're going to need to raise the water level so that way your Sims don't just see, like, the literal edge of the world. Because while the ocean and the sky do look nice, there's not really much going on. It kind of really shows off how small these maps can be, even if they're, like, the largest maps that you can possibly get in the software. So I always found that really interesting. It's like, huh. Sometimes there's not really much to work with when you really look at it. But yeah, there's a way to make worlds feel bigger and smaller than they actually are. And there are also 4 world sizes. There's the tiny maps, there's the small maps, there's the medium maps, and the large maps. I tend to just work with the large maps because all of the official EA-made Sims worlds for The Sims 3 are on the large maps at height 300. That's pretty much the default. But you can get creative with the tiny maps, the small maps, and the medium maps as well. So if you're ever dabbling with the Sims 3 Creator World, do not just try to go for, like, the largest map on your first try, and then you end up like, oh, this map is too large for me, I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't have any ideas to fill a large map. Should have just gone with a medium map, or a small map. But yeah, because once you start, you can't change the size of your world. Because, you know, it's all tied to the height maps. So you can only import and export height maps of, you know, whatever the size world you're working on is. So if you try to make a large world at height 300, you can't downgrade to a medium world with a height of 100. That's just not going to work. It's all based on the map. And then the maps themselves are... Let me actually get one to put in Clip Studio for a second. Meant to do that earlier and I totally forgot. So in your Documents folder under Electronic Arts, you're gonna find your Sims 3 Creator World tool folder. Under User Tool Data, you're gonna find the Height Map folder. So I'm gonna bring a height map in Clip Studio. There we go. Alright, so I'll bring a couple different height maps just to show off what they all look like. So this is Twinbrook, what I showed off before. So as you can see, it's just a regular .png file made, like, and it's all in grayscale. So that grayscale, those various levels of gray, that was all of the terrain that we saw in the software itself. And if we bring up a different height map, let's do Aurora Skies. That's the island of Aurora Skies. So that's literally all the terrain you have on this giant map. And you have a little bit of terrain here, but it's much darker, meaning it's much lower to the ground and much closer to sea level. And Aurora Skies really is one of the closest... It's one of the smallest large worlds, and a lot of it is pretty close to sea level. And you have all this mountain ranges, and all these waterfalls and other... Then this would be the lake, and the waterfalls would be here. And I think you have some other water features here in Aurora Skies, in the release version. But on a regular height map like this, you're not going to get it unless you are working with a light version of Aurora Skies, which you can download from Coster. But if you don't officially own and have Aurora Skies installed in your game, you're not going to see everything available. But you're probably going to see the effects just fine. But you're not going to see in-game items that you would otherwise see if you were playing the game, if you don't have Aurora Skies owned and installed on your machine. So yeah. So you see how, like, everything here is black, but you mostly just have these this main bit of terrain, but then this one very close to sea level. So that's going to be reflected in the CAW software. So I'm gonna do a bit of an experiment. So you see this little mountain? See this little mountain, like little anthill that I've made? So I'm gonna export it. Because it's not, the UI is not showing, unfortunately. But the UI for Creative World looks like this. So, you know, you have the program, file, view, about. And then these are your buttons for height maps. So the one over here is the export button, and that one's import. So export is saving this little height map that I'm about to make, so that way I could, you know, I could theoretically share it around and just have it for my own personal reference. So if I ever want to make this little piece of land again, I'll have just ready access to it. It turns the height map into a PNG that'll show up in the height map folder in the Sims 3 Creative World tool folder. And then to import means, you know, just to bring it in the same way that I brought the Twin Brook height map into the software. And that's how we spent a little bit of time in Twin Brook for a while. But there are other ways to make height maps besides just futzing around in the software. Because again, it's just a PNG of a certain size. In this case, the large size height maps are 2048 by 2048. So theoretically, you can make your own height map based on, based on, you know, any image that you have, provided, you know, you color it in the right colors. So, theoretically, could you make Sonic 06 based maps in Creative World? I think it just depends on the map, because this is, you know, the castle town. This is, you know, the main area that we associate with Soliana. And I have just gone on and on about how I would love a Sims 3 Soliana, because I think it would be a great opportunity. The Sims 3 needs more urban areas and, like, more cities. And it'd be really friggin' cool to see, especially if you make either gajinkas of Sonic characters in The Sims, or if you're like me and you have an Elise sim that you cherish very much. And it would be nice to have Elise on her home turf. So that's not really going to be possible to try to make Castletown, because you're going to require a lot of custom content, and even though Simmers are very wonderful, ambitious, and creative, and very technical people, it's gonna require so much custom content for such a niche little interest that it might not even really be worth it. And I've also said that, like, I would commission someone to try to make this, you know, this dream Sims 3 world happen for me. But it's literally just a matter of, like, okay, well, who's available? Who is willing to make that much custom content, custom bridges, custom this, custom that, platforms, gates to make it like a proper, like, city on water? Who's gonna do that? Because that requires a lot of work. Let me get my images back. So let me just show you what I'm talking about when it comes to just how much custom content there would need to be. So I've got these screenshots from the Sonic Wiki. And as you can see, there's a custom bridge, another custom bridge. This would be considered distant terrain in the Creative World software, that as well. And then even in the town center, which would probably take up the majority of the map. Or at least a good chunk of the map. That would have to all be custom. You wouldn't really be able to have boats. The Sims 3 Island Paradise does come with boats. But they're not going to be to that scale. They're not going to be that size. They're very small, piddly boats at the end of the day. There is a Sims 3 world that is basically just a cruise ship, but that's probably the most highly ambitious Sims 3 custom world I've ever seen. And that probably took a lot of work that not a lot of people are going to have the ability to make without just a whole bunch of blood, sweat, tears, and hard work. And then there's this bridge over here, which kind of struck me when I saw it, because like, that theoretically could work in The Sims 3, because on the Sims 3 website, if you go to the Sims 3 website, you click on venues, and you click on the last venue of Amore, there is a pretty similar bridge. And that's the reason why it was striking me. I was like, oh my god, that already kind of exists. So there's a very similar bridge over here. Here's the problem, though. This is on a lot in the game. This is made in the game in build mode, and in build and buy mode. And there are even little gondolas here, because there are gondolas that go around in 06. But the problem is that it's on a community lot. This is all build and buy mode. This would be like world mode, or world edit mode. So there's no way you could bring stuff from build and buy mode into just the big software that is create a world. To do that, you would have to basically just make your own models based on this. And that would be extremely tough to do. So it's pretty similar, it kind of gets the point across, but it's not gonna be the easiest ride. So that's gonna suck. But yeah. So like theoretically it's possible. But to make the city, that's gonna require a lot of work. But then I discovered all these other maps of Soliana, of just the different areas. This would be a little bit more possible, because you could make it a bit of an island. If this is water on this side, water on that side, you could imagine some water on this side. And if you just made like the island as an island over here, you could theoretically make that work. You could even make this little port area if you have Island Paradise installed. And these items, you could either make it a giant community lot and use items in build and buy mode to try to make the little warehouse, or you could get world items and create a world and just make them non-interactive items that are in the world itself, so you can't really delete them like you can items in build and buy mode. So something like this would be a little bit more plausible, but also it doesn't really feel like Soliana, because this is just a section of Soliana as a town, but it's not what we think of when we think of Soliana, because when we think of Soliana, we think of this. We think of, all the bridges, we think of the ocean, we think of those weird portal things that take us to the actual gameplay. So this wouldn't be possible, and on top of that, even though there are railings that could accommodate a port town or a town by a river, none of them are in like a nice gray color that would be appropriate for Soliana. A lot of it is beige, unfortunately. So unless you have the ability to recolor the models yourself in a different software, that's not really going to look very Soliana-ish. It's going to look more like a town cosplaying as Soliana. If you try to do it with just default Sims 3 stuff, whether it was included in an expansion pack, a stuff pack, whatever. So, yeah, there's that. So, this is a little more possible. This would take a lot of work. But then I also found this. It's like, oh, it's a map of Kingdom Valley. Theoretically, this could possibly work. Because if we're imagining this all as just water, if we're imagining this as an island, even though that would not be game accurate, if we're imagining this as an island by itself, this could theoretically work if we make it a height map similar to this. So, what you could do is you can try taking an image like this. Wrong layer. I was on the wrong layer for a second. You could try taking an image like this. Expand it to, the size of the height map you want to use. So again, the large size height maps are 2048 by 2048. And I think one thing you can do is you can just try to like grayscale the image. And and just clean it up a bit like that in grayscale, make it all like nice solid colors and have it all be gray, and then it should work. But because this image has text on it, that's gonna make some really funky outlines. So what we're gonna do, it's gonna be a little bit janky, but let's see if it works. What we could try doing is tracing over what we want our height map to look like and see if that works. Because again, this image does have text on it, so it's not, I can't simply just make it grayscale and just pray that it belongs. Shame, the 06 humans really look like they belong in The Sims. They're a little bit under-rendered for The Sims, but also, like, 06 came out when The Sims 2 was still a thing. And honestly, The Sims and The Sims 2 look much better than the NPCs in 06 outside of the cutscenes. So that really is a shame. See, what we could end up doing... Let me not use a paintbrush. Let me use one of the pens with a more clean outline. Make a new layer. I don't know if this is gonna work. This is all just... I'm going by my hunches. Yeah, the more clean lines you're gonna have, the more it's gonna end up looking a little bit weird in the actual Creative World software, because there are two ways to make terrain. There's this janky way, and then there's the more natural looking way. So this little hill that I made right here, that's the natural looking way. The setting for that is hill gentle. And it just makes a little hill like that. There's also hill steep, which does it a lot faster. And not only is it a lot more steep, it's also can look a little janky. And the same with the Valley tool. There's Valley Gentle, which makes a nice little rounded... Nice and rounded. And, you know, kind of naturally shallow. And then there's Valley Steep, where it's not as rounded around the edges. It also does it relatively instantly, so use that with caution. There are also sliders where you could adjust the strength and the fall off. So it just kind of depends on what you want. Just mess around with the sliders as much as possible in Creator World when it comes to the terrain itself. And now that I've made some hills, you know, I kind of want to flatten them a little bit. They do look a little bit janky like that. If I use flat and gentle, you know, you just select whatever height you want. It just does it kind of slowly and gentle like that. And right now it doesn't look too natural, because there's not a lot of land to work with. It's a flat map. But it's relatively smooth on the side. It's definitely artificial looking, but it looks smooth-ish. But then if I use the regular flattened terrain tool, it looks very artificial and very janky on the side. So yeah, there's that. So I think the rougher edges you use if you're trying to paint your own height map, I think they're gonna look a little bit more like this. But you know, we'll just see. This is my first time making a height map using this method. So we're gonna paint it in gray. Yeah, I'm just using very sharp because I just want to see if this works, period. I'm just gonna get the general shape across. Just cover all the text. We'll just outline the bridge. And then the little rectangle down here. See how this goes. Because I've actually never made my own height maps outside of the software before. So this is either going to work successfully but look really janky, or it's going to fail miserably and I'll have lost control of my life. What we'll also do is, this is a pretty dark gray, but I absorbed it from like one of the highest parts of the mountain. So what we could also do for the outer sections of the forest over here, we could outline that in a different shade of gray that's darker than this, see how that affects the terrain in the software if this height map works. So then we'll do this over here, make like a nice little island, just for the sake of testing. And now the music is really fitting just because I'm just drawing a little height map, or at least that's what I'm trying to do. Oh, I meant to make my paintbrush bigger. I didn't mean to zoom in like that. Alright, so we've got most of the land covered, so let's get a shade of gray that's a little bit darker. See if that makes a difference. Yeah, that's a nice shade darker than that. I'm just gonna shade the outside area. That's probably just the tree coverage in the game. And in, the actual game itself, that's basically a panorama protecting you from viewing the box that the world is in. So very similar to the kind of how distant terrain fools you into thinking that your Sims 3 world is bigger than it actually is. And ultimately, that's another reason why islands are the easiest to make in the Sims 3 creator world, just because you don't have to worry about lining up distant terrain. You don't have to worry about either the scenario where you have to make the world you want to make fit in with one of the official EA worlds that does have distant terrain that's easy to find in Create a World, or trying to make your own custom distant terrain, which is oof. Because I've tried making custom content or like separately downloaded distant terrains for expansion packs and stuff that I own. Tried to make it work. There's a way to do it, it's just very, very complicated. And it's very much like pulling teeth for those that are not technically savvy, much like I am. Like, if there was an easier way to do it, someone please tell me. If I could just like download it as a Sims 3 pack, just download it into my game, and then it appears in Create a World, that would be wonderful. That'd be so easy. But as far as I'm aware, there's no one with those kinds of files, so I'm kind of stuck either making the default Sims 3 distant terrains work for me and the world that I'm trying to create, and alter the little stories I wanted my world to tell accordingly based on the distant terrain, or just making islands because that's the easiest thing. In the water too, just to see what it ends up looking like. See, like the difference between the two terrains, if this map works at all. Right, so trying to get as much coverage as possible. Get some over here. almost done. And here we go. So, yeah, that's about the most coverage we can get. And the water is basically just going to be black. Oh, I missed some spots. So, let's just get the fill tool. Let's fill in the rest with black, see if that ends up working. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to fill in some of the holes. Oh, darn it. Wrong color. Just going to fill in some of the holes that I didn't fill in quite right. And I think I've got... I don't see any other holes, so... Alright. So... I shall now attempt to export this image and see if I can make it work in the Sims 3 Creative World software. Hopefully my computer doesn't burst into flames to punish me for my sins. Do that real quick. It's gonna look janky, so if it does work, it's definitely gonna be something. Alright, I have my screen up. Let me see if I find it in my height map folder. I don't think it exported to the height map folder. Oh, no. Okay, let me see where it could have possibly exported to. It exported okay, hold on. It should be in the height map folder. Hold on. Wait a second. Let me try exporting it as a PNG instead. And let me see if I can do it again. I found it. Okay, so I need to export it as a PNG. Alright. Oh my god. What is this monstrosity? Oh no! So, I made it a height map. It doesn't look very good though. Oh no! But yeah, just as I thought, because I didn't really smooth out the lines between the colors or anything, it came out looking really janky. Like I used the flattened terrain tool, not flattened terrain gentle. But also half of it is cut off. Oh no! Oh no! That's so sad. Half of it is cut off. Oh god, hold on. No. Oh, hi, cat. Or it might not be that half of it is cut off. It just got jutted all the way to the corner. Why did it get jutted all the way to the corner? Okay, hold on. I'm referencing the Hello Cat. And if I look back at the Clip Studio Paint version, it's not supposed to be this. It looks kind of squishy. it looks like a cake from this distance, especially because it's so artificial on the sides. But it technically worked, just not in the way that I thought it would, because if I bring up the height map that I just kind of doodled in Clip Studio, it's supposed to look like this, where you're supposed to have some more ocean space over here. And I guess looking back on it, I guess this is technically accurate, but it sure does look a little bit funny. But also, it's supposed to be a lot bigger, and you have more space over here. But this looks like I got a little bit scrunched in somehow. That's the only way I can really describe it. So, oh no. But yeah, it did technically work. It's just not really what I expected it to look like. Because look at all this open space. Look at all this open space on this large 300 map. Oh goodness. But it kind of worked at the very least. So, there's that. Well, although I think for... Oh, he wasn't showing. Yeah. Look at all this open space. All this flat terrain. And then you just have this giant lump in the background. So, I mean, sorry, it did technically work. Just not the way that I expected it to work. But yeah, theoretically you can just doodle your own height maps, provided you have, you know, the right colors and a lot of gumption. It just didn't really work for me the way I intended it to. Oh lordy. But because it came out looking this way, now it just kind of gets me thinking. Even if I don't have the parts, I could theoretically... This would actually be a lot easier to trace out then. Because even if you don't have the parts, even if you can't really convincingly make it 100% like a true Soliana, you could at least use the retaining walls included in the France World and World Adventures to make something similar. It'll look similar, but it's not going to be like a one-to-one Soliana. The houses would be pretty easy to build, though. These would be pretty basic Sims 3 builds, because a lot of these are just rectangles or other polygons. The only one you would have difficulty with is the dome structures, because you can't make perfectly round walls in The Sims 3 like you can in The Sims 4. Not unless you're using custom content, but that's going to be like facade walls, or you're making them basically like octa, hexa, decagons. So you're not going to be able to do that. The only other way you'll be able to make these little circular structures would be through adding world objects. But you can't customize world objects, not unless you go into Blender or some other like software that deals with 3D models to make them custom and make them fit whatever you're trying to do. So there's that. But theoretically, we could trace out the town and make at least our own little leg up it via height maps. So if we just copy and paste the town again, let's extend it to here, that way there's a little bit of water to play around with. We have a nice gray color to work with from our height map before. So if we go around tracing this, it should appear... Let me get caught up real quick. So this terrain right here, provided it's straight enough, would actually work with the... add another layer. It would work with some of the retaining wall objects. So if I can find the right one, this is the retaining wall in late night. It's in the wrong direction, but I'm just trying to make a point. So you would try to like line it up to the edge as much as possible and hide the jankiness over here with the terrain itself. More late night retaining walls. Another one from late night. Another one from late night. Late night again. Late night again. This one is from Late Night, I think. Late Night. Stone. This one's from Monte Vista. There's a... I don't know if there's a straight variant of it. And then this is the tropical retaining wall from Barnacle Bay. Although Barnacle Bay is definitely weird, because the Barnacle Bay items appear in my Creator World software, but I only own the world through, I think, something that was technically a glitch. So it doesn't look like I own it on the Sims 3 store, but I technically own it. And I got it for free. But I think I only own it due to a glitch. I think I own it because maybe the complete your set discount kind of glitched out in my favor. But yeah, so what you would do with retaining walls, you would try to line it up to the edge, just to hide the terrain, so it looks like you have a nice walled city, even though underneath your terrain looks like this. So we try to get 2 tropical retaining walls. This wall is straight, but it doesn't really have a nice edge that looks convincing when you connect the two or try to make it look like a very long wall. Like, this has a nice straight, clean edge to it, so if you try to line them up to make them look all connected and make it look like one giant wall, it's gonna look more convincing. This, not so much, but what you could do is you could play around with the height of the wall. Try to, like, hide the seam over here. Or you could add world objects like rocks or shrubbery or trees or bushes to, you know, try to hide it. And especially because this retaining wall has, like, moss on it, because this is from Barnacle Bay, which is a pirate-themed town, even though the pirate theme is very weak. You could have some just things like, oh, it's, you know, it's been beaten by the sea, it's, you know, got covered in wildlife and plant matter and all this. So that's why it looks like that. Or you could try to add some rocks to make it look like it's broken down or something like that. There are ways to get around it and, you know, get creative with it story-wise. Those are the only walls that are really gray. Because I cannot find the wall from France. I don't know what it's called. I thought it would just be called retaining wall. If we just look up wall, maybe I'll be able to find it. This is Wall Stone Rail. This is its base game, so it's included in Sunset Valley, yeah. And it comes with a post. So what you're supposed to do with these is that you have to line them up. Because for some reason on the stone rail, the sides are transparent. So you're supposed to hide them with the posts. Why it's like that, I have no idea. The only other walls are the city wall from Monte Vista, which looks like that. And Monte Vista is an Italian-based world. It's based off of several areas in Italy, but it's also a mountain town. And on the top of the mountain is, you know, this old fortress. This is where you're going to see the wall object. But yeah, it's not based off of Venice. Solian is clearly meant to be like Venice. But also, while the Monte Vista walls would be good because, you know, it's an Italian-themed town, and we're trying to make Soliana that is also Italian-themed, they're beige. And there's no color variant. I can't change the colors of the world objects in Create a World. So that sucks. I come in and see Sam making a wall, but make it into a Sam wall. No, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to mess with models in The Sims 3. Also, hi, Shadow759, how are you doing? But yeah, so you can't change the colors of the world objects, unfortunately. You basically just have to work with whatever's in the Create a World framework. Also included are the walls from the China world in the Sims 3 World Adventures, which look like this. There are also these really long ones that are supposed to go across the mountains on that particular height map. So, yeah, so these two are basically just custom made for that world in particular. So unless your custom world is going to have either work with that height map or just have very hilly terrain similar to that world, then the ones you're probably gonna end up working with most are just these three. And for, you know, for like the straight wall in the group, this one's extremely short compared to other retaining walls. This one is a build by mode object, if I'm not mistaken, or at least it's also available in build by mode, I think. This was in Monte Vista, because there are some ruins in Monte Vista. There's also this rock, it's a cliff wall that has a side that's completely transparent. And there goes the cat. The retaining walls for late night are all very urban. The only one I could see working is this one, but they're all called retaining wall in the metadata. So good luck trying to differentiate between all of them. And there's also this wall, which could look nice in Kingdom Valley, but again, it's a world object. So I think the only way you're going to be able to find this in build by mode is either somewhere in decor, or it's going to be in the by debug menu. And that ruined wall, like, it's called Lost Ruin Wall in the Creator World metadata, and this is from Dragon Valley, because Dragon Valley had some ruins as well. And Dragon Valley is a Celtic-themed world. It's also fantasy-themed. Where's the cat? I don't know where the cat is, but she's around somewhere. And then there's also this city wall that comes from World Adventures, but it's Asian-themed, so it's not going to work unless you're doing an Asian-themed world. But yeah, so that's about it for the walls that could possibly work. So you're either going to have to, if you're not messing around with models per se, if you're like me and you don't have the brain power to try to change these models in any way, shape, or form. What is going on? What's the cat doing? Hi. 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 I see you're being a cat. But yeah, so the best possible ones that'll work are this retaining wall that would require you to have late night, and this one that would require you to have Barnacle Bay. But again, I own Barnacle Bay through a glitch. So if you manage to get it for free like I did, I think because, again, I think the complete your set discount worked in my favor because I had a lot of Barnacle Bay items. Because they released that one stuff you can buy outside of Barnacle Bay itself. Unless you own Barnacle Bay, you might not have that retaining wall. And because I own it through a glitch, if I use a Barnacle Bay Light world as a base, it's not going to appear for me. I'm going to have to put that in manually in, you know, the light version of the world. It's still a mystery how I own Barnacle Bay. It's kind of a nothing little town, but it's fine if you just want the items and clothing. It's fine if you want, like, the boots for the swimwear, if you like fantasy worlds especially. The pirate outfits are okay, it's just not very well themed. And the cat's trying to do parkour. Shadow759 says, Aish good. Hearing you talking about the history of walls for some reason. Well, the reason why I'm talking about walls is because I'm trying to talk about the possibility of making Sonic-themed worlds in the Sims 3 Creator World software. I have a lot of experience with the Sims 3 Creator World software, but now that I'm an adult and I know significantly more than I did when I was a child when it comes to this software, I'm like, I wonder if I can make my own Sonic-based world. Because I would love for a Sims 3 Soliana to exist. But I don't know who in the modding community is willing to make that happen even if I paid them, because that would require a lot of custom content. So what I did was I made a height map traced from one of the maps in OS6 that I just happened to find on the Sonic Wiki. So I traced this map over here in grayscale, because that's what you're supposed to do. That's how the height maps in the Sims 3 Creator World are, how they're read. My map turned out pretty janky. But then I thought to myself, like, okay, well, if I trace this one, the edges are going to look pretty sharp. And there are retaining walls that exist, just nothing that would be truly Soliana-ish. Because, like, I think there are walls that... I can't find the walls in The Creator World software, though, I don't know what they're called in the metadata. I thought I would just be able to, like, look up wall and find them instantly, but I can't find them. And I don't know if I'll try looking for them under fence. They might be under fence. I'm not sure. Some of them are under... Well, some of them are under fence. Or, like, rail, I believe. Because there are also fences. They're significant... Oh, I found them! Okay, I didn't need to look them up by the word fence. So these are the ones from World Adventures for the France-based town. One side of this wall is transparent. The transparent side is supposed to be facing your land mass. And there's the side with the actual, like, brick texture on it. That's the side that's supposed to be facing the outside. It's like, that could also work. For something with, like, a nice low railing that is in scale with your Sims. Because the one flaw about these retaining walls is that they're a lot higher than they actually look, even if you place them pretty low. So you want them to scale nicely with your Sims. This is also meant to scale nicely with your Sims. And this will also scale nicely just because it has that railing there already. But then this is also extremely modern and very urban, so I don't know if it'll work 100% for Solion. It'll do for some areas, I suppose. But yeah, this would also look nice. But it's not the right color, because it's beige. And all the Monte Vista walls are also beige. So that's not Soliana at all. It's not even Kingdom Valley color. So yeah, that's gonna... It would take a lot of work. The heck? Okay, there we are. I didn't know this fencing exists. I think this is from... from the China-themed world, I believe. I've never seen this before, but I think I've only been to China and World Adventures once. So that would explain why I don't remember it. So that could also work, but it doesn't go all the way down. It's not a very long object, I don't think. And there's no side with a texture on it, so it's a very short... It's a very short fence. And then there are also some other fences that, if you make like a very rural farm world, could work. And then there are the posts that you're supposed to use to end them with. Well, that one doesn't match for this fence, but you get the picture. There's an urban chain link fence. So yeah, there are a couple fences and rails in the Creator World software, but if you're just using like official EA content that will actually be recognized by the metadata tab in Creator World, you're gonna have to improvise or make up a story as to why things are the way they are. So that's another reason why trying to make a Sims 3 Soliana with just official content is going to be difficult, and why you might have to just end up going the custom content route to make it more accurate. So yeah, it kind of sucks. So let me delete all the objects in... Wait a second. Delete all objects? Okay, nice. So yeah, our height map came up pretty janky, but at least it did work. So if I try the same with this map, I wonder if it'll look better. So let me actually try that. Oh, I'm using a paintbrush. I didn't mean to use a paintbrush, I meant to use the pen. But yeah, so even this here, if I try to trace that part out exactly, it's gonna possibly collide into one another and look like mashed potatoes if I export it, so... It's not meant to be perfect, it's just meant to get the idea across. And this is all pretty level, because the houses and stuff, that's not the terrain, that's houses. That would be making lots and then building them up either in the kind of safe mode of The Sims 3 that is included in the creative world software, or you could theoretically just build up the lots, leave them empty, and then just build them custom yourself in The Sims 3 proper. So yeah, we really only need the one shade of gray here. And we're just trying to get a nice shape of what the platform the city is on. Just kind of jut some areas out a little bit. I'll go more in depth here with black paint. Just so we can try to avoid some land squish. And I'm avoiding some of the finer little crevices on the actual map itself. Just to avoid more squish. And also just to see if we can get a general idea of what at least the city of Soliana could look like without the custom content that would really make the world feel like actual Soliana. Nice little trapezoid over here. A lot of little bridges now that I noticed them. And that's the other thing too, because there are bridges in The Sims 3. There are some that are not actually bridges, and they're just basically fancy fences that just give the illusion of bridges. There are bridges that you can access easily in the CAW metadata. But then there's also just like, you can't adjust the bridges, you can't adjust the length. It's like very much like the walls. It's like whatever appears in the CAW metadata, you take it or leave it, and you can't change it. So to get any custom bridges, you would have to make them yourself and then get them to be recognized by the CAW metadata and just make it work that way. So really, a lot of the creator world software is just work with what you have or make it yourself and make it work. Alright, let's smooth that out here, just make it more of a shape. Theoretically, I could just like try to go ham with the line tool, but it's like I just like digitally painting like this. It's very relaxing. This is just a box. Alright, get rid of the layer below it. And thankfully there's only one little hole. Fill in the gaps here. Does fill out relatively nicely, but now there's a bit of an edge to it. Oh, I picked the paintbrush again. Like, Paintbrush is my default brush in Clip Studio, so it's like muscle memory at this point. And I'm not trying to smooth out the edges too much. Just want to fill in some of the holes, and because you should really fill it out as smoothly as possible, because the worst thing that you know, the little holes and little white spaces could do is either end up being transparent and not appearing on the map, possibly breaking the map in the worst case scenario, or what it could also do is that if it's interpreted as white paint, it could just give us really janky mountains and like little peaks that appear out of the nowhere in terrain that's supposed to be otherwise just completely flat, because it's technically terrain, but it's basically, we're a port town. We're a city on water. We're a platform. We're made of concrete. So yeah, that's gonna be special. But also, I wonder why it got jutted all the way to the corner when it's supposed to be a large map. Because Aurora Skies, the file that I'm technically working on, is in a bit of a corner, but you also you also just see the rest of the terrain. It's in the corner that it was designed to be in when you use that map in Create a World. So I don't know why the map that I made is all the way in a little corner, like it's being punished. But then it's kind of it's a little abomination of a map, so it's like, the software is punishing me for not using a regular map. Alright. Just move it out. I wonder how this will show up in the software, because not only are my lines still janky, where a line tool would really help make this more smooth and appear more smooth in the software itself, but because Soliana is meant to have all these bridges, which I've outlined just so we could see where the terrain falls, and you could also use that you could also use drawing little lines on your height map as like a guide for where the bridges should go. Then you can put your bridge object there and then just delete the terrain when it's all lined up. So I wonder if those will come out squished. Because the color black is just meant to be completely flat terrain. It's not meant to have any height at all. And like the various shades of gray are just meant to be, you know, the land itself. So I wonder if it'll end up combining somewhat, or actually just being like little rectangles of land connecting the little islands to one another. I don't know, it's interesting, like, working with this software as an adult. Because when you're a kid, you just kind of want to do a little bit of everything. Like, oh yeah, I'm making my custom world, and it's got pink trees and blue glowing rocks, and it's awesome. And I'm gonna call it Awesomeville, because it's so awesome, and my Sims are gonna have fun there. And then you export it, and then your Sims are climbing up mountains that you didn't want them to climb, and it's like, oh no. But like, yeah, it's a flawed software. It's much like The Sims 3, it's flawed, but it's peak, because how creative you can get with it. But yeah, to really go ham with it, you basically just need to take it into your own hands. And not a lot of people are going to want to do that or have the technical ability to do that, so if working with what we have options, we gotta see if they work. Alright, so I'm going to try to export this and see if it shows up. So I'm going to put on Magic Mirror screen for a second. Let me export this. Okay, so let me try to import the map. to our little test world. Okay. Well. It definitely imported. And I think it's gonna be a lot flatter than I expected it to be. But I also haven't adjusted the water level yet, so let's play around with the water level. See how high it actually is. It's not very high at all! Oh my, it's so close to the water! Oh, and it's there. I guess I missed a hole. There's like a little valley here. There's like a little valley here where I guess I missed. So that's what that does. If you leave something transparent, it's just gonna show up as like a little valley, and that's where the water's gonna peek out through. Okay, good to know for future reference. That's actually something I did not realize would happen, but it happened. Yeah, I guess I made like little cookie cutter lines, or little perforated lines that I could just sculpt around. Okay, well how did this one work? How did this one not get squished in a corner? This one looks a lot better than my last one. This one looks so much better than my last one. That's cool. I made a Soliana height map, you guys. Can you believe it? Yeah, so if you're looking at the map I drew before, it's definitely got some generous water on the top and the bottom, left and right. Not as generous, but you know, a small boat can still go through if you have Island Paradise installed. And going over this way, yeah, a boat or a houseboat might be able to fit here. Well, generally with houseboats, you want as much water and much ocean space as possible, so they're also really janky, so you gotta be careful and save frequently and save in different save files if you mess around with houseboats, because the routing on them can be a bit special. So if we try to just do a little cookie cutter, go around the edges, try to find out where the platform would be and where the water would be. Okay, there's a horrible map. If I were to publish this anywhere, I would have to clean it up by quite a lot, but for the sake of a test, it's not too bad. And the little bridges didn't get squished or combined with the rest of the terrain, so that's cool. But some of the land is a lot squishier than others, and some of it's blending in with what was supposed to be the water. I noticed. It's also much closer to the water than I intended, but I think I just used a shade of gray that was just a bit too dark. Alright, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to eliminate most of the water around the city. I mean, most of the land around the city and replace with water. Okay, I took off a chunk. It was bigger than expected. I'm just trying to do a test though. It doesn't gotta be perfect, just has to get the point across. Oh, this is so janky. Oh my god, this is so messy. But hey, I made it work. I doodled my own height map, and I exported it, and I imported it, and whip bam boom, I made it happen. So theoretically we can make fetch happen. We can make Soliana in The Sims 3 happen. So I'll also show off, because the bridge land managed to survive, I'll show off how to do bridges. And, okay, hopefully the window doesn't shrink. Because, if you're starting the software new, all the different windows are gonna affect the little OBS display that I've made. So I've tried separating them so the window could stay the relatively same size. The only one that's gonna affect it is the windows I haven't opened yet for world editing stuff, and if I turn on the graph. Normally I would use the graph for roads, actually, because it's a really good tool for using roads and making them as straight as possible, but for this example, I am going to have to resist temptation and not use the graph for the road, because it don't gotta be perfect. I'm just getting the point across. Seeing if we can make Sims 3 Soliana happen. Why can't I go here? Why can't... My brush is disappearing. Weird. It could also just be this map is a little bit janky. Maybe the transparency that kind of stuck its way in here isn't just having an effect on making a little valley that I can use as a little cookie cutter outline. So if I mess up the map again, I'll fix it before I share it publicly. So clearing off here, that was the last bridge, I think. Yeah, so hopefully little transparent areas that showed up won't be too bad. Oh wait, there's still more. Oh yeah, this was... I'm just glad it came out well. It's not as nearly as janky as the other one. Like, this came out pretty accurate to how I painted it, so I'm glad about that. Alright, so I think we've reached the good enough stage. Let's just focus on this little area over here. So if you look up bridges in the metadata tab, we're gonna have a variety of bridges at our disposal, but none of them really scream Soliana. So we have that bridge from Supernatural. It's called Flat Bridge. Have the Used Crossing Bridge from Dragon Valley that's currently glitching out because it's too close to the water. It comes in a short bridge and long bridge variety. So, not too different, but, you know, that's, you know, long, short. We have Concrete Bridge Lighted. This is the bridge included in World Adventures from France. Abandoned Train Bridge. It's not actually a bridge, it's a decor item. Arched Metal Bridge. This comes from, I want to say, either Ambitions or Supernatural. Supernatural comes with quite a few bridges, actually. Large Bridge. This is from Roaring Heights. Large Chinese Bridge, that comes from World Adventures. There's also a small one that is like the teeniest, tiniest little bridge that there could possibly be. and these are pretty cute. These could be good for Soliana, but the thing is, they're probably not gonna be high enough to let boats through. So that's the thing that you're gonna have to be wary of, especially because Soliana is supposed to be Venice. You want boats to be able to go under your bridges, using the little Arc de Triomphe trick that I used before. But also you're gonna just have to make sure that the bridges can accommodate boats. They'll be able to accommodate small boats. They're not gonna be able to accommodate houseboats. Not unless you put these bridges on very, very high terrain. But the only bridge that a houseboat could pass under is this large suspension bridge from Late Night. It's a pretty high bridge. A houseboat will be able to go under there no problem, provided the water level is also accommodating. The bridge that Love built, this one's from Monte Vista, which could theoretically work for Soliana. It also has its own streetlights attached. And this one from France also has its own streetlights. So those could work nicely. This could also work. But yeah, it's pretty small. Yeah, if we're hiding the support support all the way. It's pretty small. I'm not really sure how a boat will fit under there. If you raise it up to max height showing the support, the boat should fit under there, no problem. But then it's up to you if you really want to be able to see that support and not hide it with water level or terrain. And this has multiple little supports that you're going to have to accommodate with terrain to try to hide it better, which is going to make the possibility of a boat passing under here a little bit trickier. But yeah. If it helps, it's better than anything I can do. Don't doubt yourself. I think you could pull off some really cool things. Let's see. There's this river bridge that comes with pets, so it's in Appaloosa Plains. The thing about this bridge, though, it's used in the background. It's used in the background of Appaloosa Plains. You're not even accessing it in-game. It's basically a decoration, so I'm not really sure about its viability for, normal gameplay. You could probably use it for normal gameplay just fine, but it's in the background of Appaloosa Plains where, you know, it comes from. There's also a plank bridge. That's from Ambitions. Old Wooden Bridges is also from Supernatural, because for some reason Supernatural has a lot of bridges. Large Egyptian Bridge, this is from Egypt. World Adventures. Small Egyptian Bridge, also from World Adventures. It's about 2 small bridges long. River, yeah, that's from Appaloosa Plains, from the Pets expansion. Roaring Heights. I think I showed off all the bridges. Supernatural. Train track bridge. And this is also a decorative item. Because there are no trains in The Sims 3, they are just background objects used strictly for decoration and create a world. I mean, it looks nice from a distance, but again, it's like, yeah, there are no trains in The Sims 3. There are the subways in Late Night, but it's basically a teleporter. It doesn't actually, you know, have any sort of like train animations or anything. See, the biggest contenders that could work for Soliana are this one from Monte Vista, so you would need Monte Vista to be installed. This one from France and World Adventures, even though it's beige and not gray. And the China bridges from World Adventures again. So you're gonna need World Adventures at the very least. And these bridges, they have... because Dragon Valley is meant to be more of a Celtic world, so it's got Celtic motifs to it, so it's not gonna fit 100% with Soliana, but if you have that particular world installed, and maybe that's the only store world you have, you could try to make it pass. But it's not really recommended, because it's Soliana is very Italian themed. This bridge from Supernatural would work for something a bit more modern, and it could possibly work nice with the retaining walls from Late Night, but it's also a shame that Late Night doesn't have any like small bridges kind of in this style. With that particular theme to match the retaining walls. The only bridge that comes with Late Night is the large suspension bridge. So let's see. And Soliana doesn't really have anything that would match the old plank bridge. And this covered bridge that was also in Supernatural, it's basically just the flat bridge, but with what was supposed to be, I guess, a covering over it that's looks like it's seen better days, or it just never got completed in terms of its construction. And then this bridge is huge, and it's also brown. But it's also significantly wider than any of the bridges actually usable in game, so that's why I'm thinking, I think this is just meant to be decoration. Because it's about as wide as any of these bridges, so that's iffy. But let me actually show you how bridges work. So we're gonna rotate this bridge, just to use as an example. And we're gonna get it nice and flat. Well, not that flat, that's a bit too deep. So you want them nice and flat against the terrain as possible. If you use the graph, it'll line it up nice and flat for you. It's a lot better to align the bridges with graphs more than anything else. To make the bridge actually functional, they don't go over land very well. How do I know this? Well, it's because one of the Sims 3 worlds that I made when I was a wee child, I thought it'd be a good idea to have like 2 mountains. So it would have 2 mountains, but there was no river in between. It was just, you know, flat land where there were also be houses and plants. If you try to put a bridge over land, the cars are just gonna, like, they'll drive regularly on the beginning of the bridge, but then while on the bridge itself, they will just go up and down, and the car will glitch in between the bridge and the land below and go above. And so it's like a free roller coaster for your Sims, born of a glitch. So yeah, don't do what I did when I was a kid. Just, if you're gonna use a bridge, put some water underneath. That's what it's for. If you want land to be like that, you're not gonna have any luck putting a bridge over it. If you're making mountains that you want to be connected somehow, just make a larger mountain, or just join the 2 pieces of land and make it like one nice plateau. Because otherwise you're gonna break it. Alright, so let's put the water level back. And got my road tab. The base game road is the current active road, so I'm just going to use that for the sake of testing. I'm going to make one little road here. Make another little road on this side. So what you're going to want to do is that you see how you have these little blue squares on the tips of either side of the bridge, and these little blue squares on the tips of the road? You're going to want to connect those, and when they are connected, they will turn aqua. They're not always gonna line up perfectly though. Especially if your bridge is not exactly flat on the ground. So that's why you want it flat on the ground. You want it to look nice. You want it to route correctly, so just get it as nice and flat as possible. Even if there's like a little bit of the bridge, like a little bit of the bridge off the ground, it's fine. It's better than it being like 10 feet off the ground, because then it's not gonna be connected to the road. So you want it nice and flat as possible. You want it connected. And connected on either side, because otherwise your Sims are not going to know where to go. And your Sims are pretty dumb when it comes to routing, so you want to, you know, make sure they are able to route on roads correctly. What you also don't want the land to be peeking through. So I'm going to have to fix that, either by raising the bridge or just editing the terrain later on. But each time you move the bridge, it's going to disconnect the roads, so you're going to have to manually reconnect them again. So yeah, there's that. So theoretically, if I were to stretch out this road and find a way to, you know, connect it to that piece of road, make a nice little circle, it would be a functional road, because it's nice and connected to the bridge. You'll be able to go in that little circle. But the road is not big enough for that, because the roads can be a little bit quirky in this game. So eventually, you can stretch the road pretty far out, but eventually you're probably just going to want extra pieces of road to work with, and then just work with the road tool again. Because there's only so much you can stretch it out each move. And you can do it pretty far, but it's going to be very rounded. So if you want something like nice and like square-ish, something with nice defined corners, you're going to want more pieces of road, because otherwise it's just going to end up curving. And if your town, you know, if you don't want curves in your town, just get as many pieces of road. There's no limit to how many roads you could add. As long as everything's nice and routable and not too crazy, your roads should work just fine. And whoops. Oh yeah, be careful when you move the roads like that, because, yeah. Sometimes you end up moving the entire piece of road when you just meant to do, like, one small segment. That's another reason why you're gonna want multiple pieces of road. Even if you're just making a straight line. Like, what if you want to curve it later? But the only reason I'm doing this is because I just want to show off how you connect the roads. This is gonna look janky as heck. So yeah, you take 2 pieces of road. Oh my god, look at this. Yeah, you do not want this in your game. The roads cannot go underwater. But I'm just doing this as an example in terms of how you connect the roads. So how you connect 2 previously unconnected pieces of road is that you just try to connect them at the points over here, and then you want that little point to turn aqua. And the base game road is at least good for knowing where to line them up, because it will have this these yellow lines in the middle. But if you use roads without lines, or like with custom lines and all that, you know, you just always line them up at the center. But if you're just practicing this software for the first time, you're going to want a line with roads just to make sure you know what you're doing and where you're going. You're also going to want a solid sidewalk, because there are worlds where the sidewalk is semi-transparent, like if it's a dirt road or a sand road, or like a road that's very gravelly where the sidewalk should be. But yeah, and then especially if you're like me and you want all the lots to line up exactly where the sidewalk starts, you're gonna want a sidewalk, like a nice solid sidewalk. But yeah, don't do this, kids. Don't be like me. I'm just doing this as an example because I have years of experience working with this software. And I just want to show off how it works. But yeah, theoretically, yeah, so this could possibly work. Again, unless you go making all the everything custom from scratch to make it truly look like Soliana, the best you're gonna have to do is work with everything included in however many Sims 3 expansion packs you have, and however many store worlds you actually officially have installed. Because to get anything custom to appear in Create a World, bit of a pain in the butt! It's possible, but it's definitely a pain. It's definitely for more experienced users. So let's delete all objects in the layer. Let me delete the road. But yeah, so we actually ended up making a height map. So at least I got this map for the city to work, even if it had come out looking a little bit pancakey. Trying to make the forest didn't really work out as well as I thought it would. I'm not sure why it ended up so squished in a corner, but it was. So that's something to experiment with later on, because that did not turn out the way I expected it, but you know, it's okay. We're just trying new things here. So yeah, like, that's definitely something to experiment with. But yeah, because I have no experience modeling anything from scratch for The Sims 3, if I were to make a Soliana-based world, I would have to start out with my own custom height map, and then just try to work with whatever base game and expansion pack components look close enough. And even then, it wouldn't really be Soliana as much as it would just be Soliana-esque. Okay, it'd be a town cosplaying Soliana, essentially. But then, the other problem that I could foresee is because the maps in Sonic 06 look and feel pretty big, sometimes too big. I think that's something Frontiers got better much later on. But The Sims 3 has a way of feeling both bigger and smaller than it actually is when you're making custom worlds. So if I make a lot, I'm gonna make 2 lots, 1 residential, 1 community. We're not gonna build anything because I don't have that portion of the software set up for OBS. but this is the maximum lot size. They are 64 by 64. That is the biggest you can possibly go. So then if we go back to the map we have here, you see that Soliana has these very long buildings that kind of... They would basically cover an entire city block in some instances. So those aren't really going to be possible to recreate in build mode in The Sims. What you would end up having to do is if we turn on graph mode really quick and just make the maximum lot size for a couple times in a row. So let's say we're trying to make this house here. It's not on that piece of land in Creative World, but bear with me, I'm just trying to get a point across. So that would be, just roughly estimating, that would be about maybe 4 64 by 64 lots. Here's the thing about The Sims 3 though, and The Sims 3 Creative World. You cannot have lots overlapping with one another. Oversecting. You can't have them overlap with one another, because it'll appear red. If I try to click it to create the lot, it's not gonna let me. It's not gonna let me do anything. What you would have to end up doing is just make the lot as close to the other lot as possible. And just try to, imagine. Because even if I try to move this created lot, it's not gonna move. It's not gonna overlap. I can't cross the boundary lines of the other lot. Because if I do, it's not gonna let me. It's gonna go back to where I created this lot at. What I like to do, though, is like 2 squares of these are good for sidewalks. So what you could theoretically do is you could have sidewalks going between the buildings and have it be like a small alley. If you wanted to add some green space to whatever town you're working with, we could jut this over here. Oh, that's a bit too far, but I just want to get the point across. What we could end up doing, just to have some space between the lots, but still have the buildings like relatively close to each other. We could add 2 sidewalk intersections, add a little sidewalk. Let's move this lot a little closer, because I moved it a bit too far. And then, theoretically, we can get a little bit creative. What if we add another lot in here? Make it a community lot. We could have that... Oh, it crashed. Oh, it crashed. Oh, it crashed. Oh, I was a bit too ambitious. The Sims 3 Creative World has crashed. It's never crashed on me before. So this is a first! I think I was just being a bit too experimental and the software was like, nope! Not anymore, Satan! But yeah, so theoretically, you can't make this happen. You can't make a building this big, and have it actually look like that. You would have to either build segments of the building separately, or it would be solely uninspired. You could add little green spaces in between. You could add world objects and terrain paint between the buildings, make it look like a park without having to designate a lot for it. But yeah, you could theoretically make it happen, but just not like this. A lot of this architecture is going to be impossible. The rectangles, this rectangle, as long as you can make it fit on the largest lot size possible, whether you're doing a perfect square 64 by 64 or maybe a 32 by 64, as long as you make it fit within that space, that's possible. This is possible. These are possible. Anything that's basically a nice square or rectangle is possible. This would also be possible, but I'm going to circle that in yellow because, again, it depends on what lot size you're working with. and you're gonna have to make it fit within that square, because if it doesn't fit in the square, it's just not gonna work. You can actually put lots partially on water. So let's say you want a lot that has water on either side. You can actually make that happen because Island Paradise, if you have that installed, allows for that. But again, you're gonna have to make it fit on the land itself. Because if you try to extend the terrain in regular build by mode, and, you know, using the landscaping tools, it's gonna look a little janky. So you're better off just making the terrain as perfect as you can possibly make it, and try to make it as ideal as you want to look in the Creator World software, and just not touch the terrain with the landscaping tools in The Sims 3, like the regular game. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit complicated. But yeah, so like this is possible. I'm glad I figured out how to make my own height map, so I could theoretically make it happen, at least if we're going for a city on the water. But then, here's the other thing too. How am I going to have the walls around it, but also make it Island Paradise compatible / compliant? So, yeah. You could definitely use a map like this as a base, but it's definitely going to be Soliana light. Or Soliana inspired. It can't be Soliana itself, because it's going to be a lot more complicated to make. And also, I'm surprised the software crashed. I've never had that happen before. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to open it again, see what the heck happened. Oh, maybe it didn't like my map. Maybe that's what happened. It didn't like my map. It thought my map was too janky and decided it was just gonna nope itself out of existence. Alright, so I got the software up and running. Yeah, I didn't save the world that I was working on before because I didn't really need to. It was just a test world. But can I open the other worlds that I've been working on? I can, and they look fine, okay. So, the software as a whole is not dead or mad at me. It was just mad at me that one time. I got a little pop-up notification saying it was a memory issue. Or that it was a little bit corrupted in one area. But I'm guessing that's just because I was messing around with a lot of objects on one layer, on one map that I've messed with the terrain on multiple times. So yeah, I guess that's another tip. If you're messing around with the terrain a lot on one world, you're better off just making a new save file and making a new world. Like yeah, it's flawed, but it's the only kind of Creator World software we have for The Sims 3, so yeah, just kind of take it or leave it and work within, you know, just kind of work within the parameters and just try to figure things out. Goodness. I did not expect that to happen. That was just kind of funny to me. But after all these years, Sully crashed on me that one time. Can you believe that? That's insane. Like, yeah, I've been playing this Sims 3 for over like 10 years, and I've never had the software crash on me before. I've had the regular game crash on me before. And yeah, I've never had the Creator World software crash. Oh, but that is something. Oh, yeah, so what did we learn today? We learned that we can make our own height maps by tracing out or trying to grayscale images that we like of geographical locations, fictional or real. There's one tutorial that I've stumbled upon where it shows you how to make a height map using like a map of England as a base, and they managed to like make that a height map and export it into CAW. Yeah, and I've traced my own little janky height map, and it was janky, but it worked for the most part, even though I have to fine-tune it a bit. But, you know, it was functional for a time before the software got mad at me and crashed. And we looked at some of the metadata to see what objects we could use to create a Soliana in name, but not or like Soliana in spirit kind of town, I guess. And yeah, that was definitely something. My head is also hurting. Had to drink some water there. But yeah, that was really something, huh? I'm surprised I've gone on for this long, but it's The Sims. I can't help it. It's my childhood, man. But yeah, I think I might call it a stream. I think this is probably the most low-key stream that I've had so far. But, you know, it's okay. Today was a low-energy kind of day, and there's no shame in having low-energy days. So, definitely want to mess around with CAW more in the future. And I guess we'll see what else happens. If I can get the hype maps to work, I'll share them at some point or another. And hopefully I'll have some time and energy this week so I can go back to playing some games that I've kind of put on hold for a while. And otherwise, just kind of see what happens. So I probably shouldn't push CAW that far ever again. But I mean, hey, at least I showed off, like, what you can theoretically do. And I, you know, gave a little bit of tutorial for the roads and how bridges work. So, you know, that's something. That's cool. That's neat. But yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that I could stream Creative World at least. Cause to stream The Sims 3, that's gonna take a while to make work. Oh, hold on. There we go. Okay. You know, for a second I thought the software was having a seizure. Like, are you mad at me? You don't want to appear in OBS anymore? Come on. But no, it's appearing in OBS. It just I had to click a button. So yeah. So I'm glad I didn't just murder the software entirely. That would have been horrifyingly sad. Granted, I have the installation files in the .exe saved, so like should the Sims 3 store ever go down completely, I do have, you know, the installation for the software itself saved on multiple USB sticks, one portable hard drive, and yeah, so software ain't going anywhere, not as long as I'm around. So like, even if it just crashed me completely, I think I would just have to uninstall it and then try to install it again. But yeah, I think I'm gonna call it a stream and I'm gonna get myself some food. I'm gonna mess around with hype maps a bit more, and if I can get one to work, I tried well, you can't just sign up for it. You have to request an account and get approved, because it's based on a wait list. So I requested an account on the Sims file share. What's the Sims file share? Well, it's a file sharing site meant for Simmers, and it has Simmers in mind. Because there's a lot of custom content out there on The Sims 3, or just the Sims community in general is just all for custom content and mods. So, Sims File Share's mission is basically to make sure that no simming related content goes lost or, you know, goes missing ever again. So, they are a file sharing site. They're pretty cool. It's very easy to download stuff on there. All the files on there have been pretty bullshit free so far. It's a site that I've gotten used to using. I enjoy it a lot. So, I requested an account. If I manage to make an account, I will just share all of my Sims 3 related creations on there. Fire trucks are going on in the background. That's cool. But yeah, other than that, I think I'm going to call it a stream. I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to give CAW a little bit of a break. And I will see you guys later. I think I'm a bit too tired to do the YouTube spiel though. So I'm just gonna say, if you like what I make, you can always click the like button. Subscribe if you want to subscribe. Yeah. Hopefully I can catch you all next time. So until then, good night, my little starlings. Good night.